I never expected to go head-to-head with a powerful homeowners association. But sometimes life pitches you a curveball, and all you can do is swing. I'm Emily Harper, 33 years old, and this is the story of how an HOA illegally built an entire luxury neighborhood on land that belonged to me and how they thought no one would ever notice. What followed was a battle for truth, for justice, and for the legacy my parents meant to leave behind. And just when I thought I'd seen it all, the ending took a turn no one saw coming. Buckle in, this one's wild. I grew up in a quiet, rural pocket of the state, just me and my parents, John and Margaret Harper. Our home sat nestled between fields where my dad, a farmer through and through, cultivated vegetables and fruit with care and pride. A few miles away, though, was a different kind of land, 50 acres closer to the city, which my parents had bought years earlier at a government auction. They always said it was an investment, a just-in-case parcel. I was in high school when they told me they intended it as my inheritance, something I'd receive on my 30th birthday. "It's your future, Emily," my dad had said, clasping my hand like it was a contract. "Do with it what you will, but know we did this for you." I didn't fully understand the weight of it back then. I was focused on college, teaching, and getting out into the world. Land ownership wasn't even on my radar, but they made sure it would transfer to me when the time was right, working with their lawyer to set up a clear inheritance plan. Until then, it would stay in their names. I poured myself into my studies, English and education, and discovered a real passion for teaching during my student-teacher placement. I loved it, creating lessons, watching kids connect the dots, seeing their minds expand. Just before graduation, I was offered a position through an international teaching program, 5 years in Japan, all expenses covered, with a salary comparable to teaching in the US and no Japanese required. My parents were thrilled for me. They helped me pack, told me to chase the opportunity, and I did. Living in Japan was transformational. I fell in love with the culture, the rhythm of daily life, the challenge of adapting. But just 2 months after I returned to the US at 26, life unraveled. My parents were hit head-on by a drunk driver during a routine trip to the grocery store. Both died instantly. The loss shattered me. I moved back into their house, but the grief was suffocating. When I was offered another contract in Japan, I took it without thinking. I handed off the house to a property manager and fled the country, trying to outrun the pain. While I was gone, the unthinkable happened. A local HOA, greedy, sloppy, and unbothered by legalities, decided my family's 50-acre parcel was ripe for development. They didn't bother verifying ownership, didn't check with the county or my parents' lawyer. With both my parents deceased and the titles still in their names until I turned 30, the land looked abandoned. A gold mine. So they claimed it. Not just squatting, developing. They built a full neighborhood. 31 modern homes, sidewalks, street signs, a master plan community right on top of my inheritance. They used outdated auction records, arguing the land was unclaimed since my father had passed. No attempt was made to contact me. No legal acquisition. It was blatant theft. When I came back to the US at 31, ready to finally claim the land my parents had preserved for me, I was blindsided. The house had been maintained, thankfully. I reached out to Daniel Carter, my parents' lawyer, to finalize the inheritance. He smiled when he asked, "Want to go see your land?" He still believed it was untouched. We drove together, but the moment we arrived, I knew something was wrong. Instead of open fields and trees, I saw gates, lawns, mailboxes. A fully built subdivision sprawled across all 150 acres. Daniel's jaw tightened. We circled the neighborhood in silence. My stomach dropped. This wasn't a misunderstanding, it was a hostile takeover. The future my parents envisioned for me had been paved over. Someone else was profiting from what they never had the right to claim. Daniel was horrified and immediately launched into research. The next day, he confirmed it. The HOA had absolutely no legal right to the land. It was still in my family's name, clearly stated in the inheritance documents. He introduced me to Sarah Mitchell, a sharp, fearless real estate attorney. Sarah wasted no time. She dug up everything: the fraudulent assumptions, the lack of a title transfer, the lack of any permission or outreach. The HOA had capitalized on a moment of transition, banking on no one noticing. I hoped I could just talk to them, show them the documents, work something out. But when Sarah arranged contact with a board member, the response was anything but cooperative. They accused me of disruption, claimed the land now belonged to them under adverse possession, and told me I didn't have a leg to stand on. I cried when I read the email. I just wanted to honor my parents' legacy. Instead, I was being gaslit by an entity that had stolen from me. Sarah called within the hour. Emily, they're bluffing. Adverse possession here requires 7 years. They've only had 5. They're panicking. That was my turning point. I said yes to a lawsuit. Sarah's plan was aggressive. We'd fight to reclaim the land, and if we won, I'd keep the development. The HOA would be removed, and I'd negotiate directly with the homeowners. At trial, Sarah submitted every document: my parents' will, the land records, the legal chain of ownership. The HOA's lawyers scrambled to keep up, offering little more than vague construction invoices and hearsay. When pressed, they had no actual proof of purchase, no deed, no consent, just concrete and arrogance. Then came the twist. 2 days before a key hearing, Sarah called me to court. There, a man from the HOA's finance department, Walter Evans, stood shaking. He admitted the HOA had planned to forge documents, pretending they'd occupied the land for over 8 years. Walter couldn't be part of it. He turned whistleblower. It blew the case wide open. The HOA tried to settle. I said no. Homeowners, furious at being duped, began threatening lawsuits of their own. I sympathized with them. They'd bought in good faith. But that didn't excuse the HOA's actions. Sarah helped me broker a solution. I'd formally acknowledge the homeowners' rights to live there, but they'd pay a monthly land lease directly to me. The HOA would dissolve. I would take control of the land, the community, the future. They folded. I met with an insurance advisor to set fair lease terms and personally visited all 31 homes. Most residents were relieved. A few were angry, but grateful they wouldn't be evicted. The settlement I received from the HOA was more than I could have dreamed. It gave me financial freedom. The lease income supports the community, improving roads, adding parks, and building the future I envision. The HOA disbanded. Their shady history exposed, their funds drained, their power gone. Now, I substitute teach when I feel like it, not because I need the paycheck, but because I still love it. Owning and overseeing an entire neighborhood wasn't the future I pictured, but it's one my parents would have been proud of. They gave me a gift. I defended it, and I made it my own. The HOA thought they could bury the truth under concrete, but they didn't count on me, and that was their biggest mistake.